Because dinosaurs can be used to actually pull people away from God because of the confusion, because of the conflict of stories. Now, here's the part that kind of frustrated me a little bit. He responded to the lady on air, and this is what he said. Dinosaurs are out there, so there was a time when these giant reptiles were on the earth, and it was before the time of the Bible. If you fight real science, you're going to lose your children, and I believe in telling it the way it was. I don't know about you guys, a couple red flags there. First of all, he's saying that dinosaurs lived before the time of the Bible. What does the first verse in the Bible say?
The beginning.
What's before the beginning?
There's nothing.
Why is he placing these dinosaurs having lived before the time of the Bible? Because there's a lot of pressure from the secular world to say that they lived millions of years ago or whatever. It's like a marriage of two different ideas, though. That's not what the Bible says, though. If it's going to be a Christian answer, we started at the beginning with creation and the first man, to say that they lived before that, that's kind of strange. And then to say that we can't fight real science. So now it's a battle between real science
Evolution's
and
not real
God's
science.
Word. This is dangerous territory we're walking in, people. We have to be very careful. And I'm not trying to, throw any shade on him or anything like that, because he's done some amazing things, but this is why this topic is important. It's too confusing, so just let it sit there and simmer. So we're going to tackle some more questions. Did dinosaurs really exist? This is a great question, because to me, when I was a kid growing up, I was told dinosaurs never existed. That was just a myth. Those are just fake, pretend creatures that never really lived. But now we know for absolute certainty that dinosaurs did exist. Not only did they exist, they were plentiful. Having lived on all the continents, there's evidence of them having lived on all the continents. And that includes Antarctica, where once upon a time, it wasn't a big, giant, cold snowball down there. There's evidence that that was lush forests. Dinosaurs definitely lived, but of course we ask the question, what's the evidence? What kind of evidence do we see? Well, first of all, let's look at the basic dinosaur kinds. There's a variety of dinosaur kinds, but the two most popular ones are the theropods, they walk on 2, and the sauropods walk on 4. So it's important to understand kind of how they're grouped. There's the ones that fly and other different ones, but the two basic ones are the theropods and the sauropods. Now, as far as evidence, number one, we find lots of fossils. Where do we find the fossils? In the ground. Very good. We don't find them in the trees, do we? No. We find them in the ground, buried rapidly, and that's why they were preserved. Today, when animals die, they're not preserved. Over a period of time, there's no evidence of having existed. Great example, in the west, in the plains, there used to be millions and millions of bison. There's absolutely no evidence left that they even existed, just historical records. Because not even the bones can be found. Interesting though, here we find bones that were preserved because they were buried rapidly. So fossils of their bones. Here's me at a dig. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but our college in Texas actually operates, Southwestern Adventist University operates a dig every single summer to Wyoming. And it's open to the public. If you want to go, you can go for a day, a week. They go for a month every single year. And every year, on average, they find about 10,000 dinosaur bones.
Wow.
A lot of bones. It's pretty cool. So I got to go there with my kids one summer as well. So we were having fun, once we find the bone and we clean it up, we cover it with plaster. And then it's able to be transported because they're very delicate. They're very delicate. As you can see, you have to clean them with like paintbrushes and stuff. We also find, as another piece of evidence, tracks, dinosaur tracks. And we find them in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, and three-toed and walking side by side, and the spacing. All these are little clues and things that we can learn about how dinosaurs lived and walked and were on the earth. We also find impressions of their skin that have been fossilized. So when they were buried rapidly by some sort of water, mud type related catastrophe, when they were still alive, that rock, that dirt turned into rock, and it was preserved. And you can see, very clearly reptilian skin where this dinosaur used to be. We also find fossils of their eggs. These long, skinny ones are raptor eggs, and I actually have a little piece of raptor, not raptor. This is a dinosaur egg shell. Little tiny piece. They were pretty small, like the size of an ostrich egg, but obviously these creatures grew kind of big. This one, anybody recognize this guy? A raptor. It's a velociraptor. Very good. Velociraptors were famous for their claw at the bottom here. There's kind of a close-up of a claw. Now this is a replica, and I actually have one of these here in my bag. So here's an actual replica, but this is the size of how they were. Now these creatures were about my height, maybe a little bit taller, very muscular, and supposedly very vicious and brutal predators. But we can see kind of what they look like. They would use these to slash. Scary. Of course, everybody knows the T-Rex. Here's a replica of one of his teeth. This is a replica, but it's cast from a real one. And you can imagine how big these, and by the way, this is actually a small tooth. At that dig site that I was just talking about in Wyoming, the Adventist dig site is believed to have recovered the largest T-Rex tooth ever found, about 12 inches long. So, pretty cool seeing these. This guy here is called a mega raptor. Now, why do you think they would call it a mega raptor? Yeah, it was big. Kind of like a velociraptor, but this guy was a little bit bigger. Let me show you one of his claws. This is a replica also. That's his claw. Isn't it a big toe? Yikes. Definitely don't want to run into this guy, ever. A lot bigger. We don't know a whole lot about the species because the only part of his body that has been found was from his leg down. But we try to assume what the rest of it looks like. Think about it, every time you see a dinosaur drawing, nobody really knows what they look like. It's an interpretation. Anybody know what this guy is? Yeah, Spinosaurus. Easily identified because they have that tall spine across the back. Now for the Spinosaurus, I actually have something to show you guys. This is one of his real teeth. Yeah, this is cool. This is not a replica. This is a real Spinosaurus tooth. And it kind of really makes me think, wow, this was in the mouth of one of those creatures at some point in the past. I'm gonna bite you. See? You can tell your friends you got bit by a Spinosaurus this weekend. How cool is that? There's a lot of cool stuff. Here's a little rib bone. I found this just walking around at the dig site. There's a dinosaur rib bone. The paleontologist actually identified it for me and everything. You can hold that if you want. What other fossils do I have in here? Here's another fossil. You can hold that one. That one is dinosaur poop. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. Dinosaur poop. That's right. Dinosaur poop is a fossil too. It is. It's pretty cool. So we do find quite a bit of fossils and little clues and bits that show us that these dinosaur creatures really did exist. Creepy as it may be, they did exist. Alright, it's time for game show. I love game shows, I love giving away prizes. I'm gonna give away a DVD to somebody. So, I don't know how many of you guys follow the church's VBS materials at the North American guys? Okay, the big three. I don't know if you guys remember this big rock that flies around and knocks me over all the time. I'd like to give one of these away. If you can answer this question, you have to raise your hand quietly. The question is, name 3 evidences that dinosaurs existed. Okay, I just named, I think, 6 or 7 at least.
Fossils,
Quietly raise your hand, and I'm going to see if I can find somebody that can answer for us. All right, how about you? Fossils, very good, that's one. She's thinking. Fossils?
What are the 3?
fossils. They found 2. They found
you can phone a friend.
Stone.
Footprints, alright, the footprint, that counts, alright, that's 2. One more! What was she just holding over there? The what?
Claw.
The dinosaur poop! There you go, big round of applause! It's kind of funny, as I do this everywhere, the poop always makes it on the list. I don't know, we love poop so much. Dinosaur poop is different, I guess. Alright, let's keep going. You guys hearing something? Huh. You guys checked under your seats before you sat down? Just kidding. That was kind of creepy. I don't know what that was. Huh. Alright, let's keep going. So, okay, here is probably the most important question of the night. When did dinosaurs live? Why is this important? Because there's a couple different ideas about the dinosaurs, and the issue that divides them is time. Evolution teaches that dinosaurs lived 200 million years ago. The last one died off 65 million years ago, and they can't explain why. Okay, that's a long time ago. Creation teaches something pretty different, that God created life recently. This is very different. The other explanation has no God, it was zillions of years ago, we don't know what happened to them, we don't know where they came from. This tells us very specifically who, when, what, and how. Interesting, totally different explanations. And the dividing factor is time. Now, the Bible tells us pretty clearly how things unfolded. Right there in Genesis, God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, all the creatures that move along the ground like snakes and reptiles according to their kinds. And God saw that it was
good.
Very good. And this clearly tells us that only God can create. Is there any other being in the world, in the universe, that can create living things?
No.
Can Satan create a living thing?
No.
Can angels create a living thing?
No.
Can scientists create living things?
No.
There's only one being in the entire universe that has that kind of power, and that is God. Which then brings us to a very alarming question. Rich, you just finished telling us that dinosaurs absolutely lived. They were living, breathing creatures, flesh and blood. Are you saying God created dinosaurs? Because that kind of sounds like what you're saying here. Dinosaurs were living creatures and only God can create life?
We made puppies.
Really, the question that I'd like to ask is, what were the original dinosaurs like? At creation, right? Before all the mishmash and the mess. After creation, we all know that everything changed dramatically, but I kind of wonder what stuff was like before. We're going to come to that a little bit more, but the interesting thing for us to remember is that only God has the power to create, nobody else. We're going to unpack this a little bit more a little bit later. Why are they so scary looking? Yeah. They're scary looking, that's for sure, with their big old teeth, their creepy skin, those eyes. Even though nobody really knows what their eyes look like, right? There's no such thing as a fossil of an eye, but they always make them pretty creepy looking. Even though the majority of them were not creepy looking. But our culture loves the creepy ones. They are scary looking, right? You go to a museum, and the kids are, oh, scary, scary. And you know, the people there are laughing at them. Okay, so they're scary looking, but do you guys really want to see a picture of a scary creature? Check this guy out. Ha, ha, ha. But the joke's on you. Does anybody know what's this?
One of the most
Very
poisonous.
good. This is a poisonous dart frog.
Yeah.
Now, why are these so dangerous? It's because they're the most poisonous creature on the planet. These guys are scary. They may not look very scary, but if you think about it, at least the T-Rex has to chase you through the jungle to get you, right? These guys? You're walking through the jungle and all of a sudden this cute little frog jumps on your arm. Aw, you're so cute. You're dead. Because it's so poisonous. Its poison is so strong that it can kill a human being. This little guy, they're like this big. That's scary if you ask me. That's like evil, hidden. At least the T-Rex, you have a better chance. You can hide under a trunk or something. This guy, you're so cute, you're like, oh, you're almost petting it, and you die. Scary creatures. Just because they may not look scary, you shouldn't be afraid. Here's another one. Yeah, that was also on the creepy looking side. This guy's called a viper fish. Viper. So we don't know too much about them because they live in the really deep parts of the ocean. But we can see they look very creepy. They got this big old mouth. Their teeth don't even seem to fit in their mouth. I don't even know if they can close their mouth. Right? They're like swimming around with their mouth open all the time. I don't know. Lions? We've seen pictures of lions and we're like, oh, so cute. I just want to walk up to him and just grab his mane. He's so cute. Right? Because we all have our like stuffed animals and lions and stuff. But let me tell you, the voice of reason is here. I've heard these guys in Africa roaring at night. It's a reason to shake in your boots, man. I'm telling you, these guys are scary looking. It's just culturally, we've been accustomed to like them and think that they're cute. But these guys are scary. Yeah, exactly. I feel exactly the same. I don't know how much TV you watch, but I've done a couple of videos and I actually swam in a cage with these guys swimming around. Pretty creepy and cool stuff. Very creepy. Sharks. Yeah. These guys really give me the creeps. I go to mission trips in Central America, South America, whatever, and these guys are crawling around. I am not happy. That is one big spider. I know. Yeah. Big old hairy spider. Not good, not good. Scary spider. That's scary. You guys want to see a snake? I actually brought one. Did I mention that it was a fake? I forgot that word? Sorry, my bad. It's a fake snake. You guys okay? Alright. I don't like snakes too much. They kind of creep me out. Here's a funny little story. Actually, it's not very funny, but I was doing this in, where was I? Somewhere in Oregon, I think. And there was this little old lady sitting right in the front row. And when I came out with a snake, she was mortified. And I feel so bad because as soon as I came out around the corner with the snake, she stood up and took off running. I kid you not. I felt so bad. And I went and talked to her afterwards and I said, I'm sorry and all that stuff. And I asked her if she wanted to see the fake snakes. She's like, no. I'm scared of fake snakes and real snakes. So imagine, I mean, snakes are creepy, but they scare people. They're creepy creatures. So, obviously, you guys aren't too scared of cheetahs, and that's okay. They're cool animals, famous for their speed. Yeah. Now, I like to ask a lot of questions, so I ask, why are they so speedy? Because when we look in the Bible tells us that all the creatures, all the animals, were vegetarians. They were plant eaters before the time of sin. So, why are they so fast? Was there these super speedy plants that they had to chase through the savannah or something? All these creatures that we're looking at, scary, weird, creepy, poisonous, venomous, giant teeth, what's going on? Why all these creatures? Speaking of plants, this one is called poison ivy. I'm very allergic to poison ivy, and a couple of years ago my neighbor was talking to me in the yard, and for some reason we got on the topic of poison ivy, and he's like, man, I hate poison ivy. And then he said, why did God create poison ivy? And it made me think, and I'm like, did God create poison ivy? What's going on here? Why all this weird, twisted up nature? Scary and venomous and poisonous and all these things. What is going on? This guy is called a hagfish. Hagfish. So as you can see, the scientist just took a little swipe from his skin, and he is mixing it with a cup of water. Now this fish has a very interesting defense mechanism, because if the fish becomes scared or alarmed or feels threatened, he kind of excretes this, he squirts this out, and it comes out through his skin. Look what it does to the water. One drop of that stuff turned a full cup of water into a big ball of slime. Completely emptied the cup.
Sweet for your blood.
Interesting.
I mean, first of all, why do animals have to have a defense mechanism? Because other animals are chasing them, trying to eat them and kill them. This doesn't sound like God's wonderful, perfect nature, and all these poisons and venoms and teeth and whatever. Very strange stuff. Everybody knows the Venus flytrap. They open up their little petals, and inside there's these series of 3 hairs, and 3 hairs at the bottom and the top. You know what happens, a fly comes along. If the fly touches one of those hairs, any one of them, a 20-second timer begins. It's exactly 20 seconds. Because if the fly touches a second one of those hairs within those 20 seconds, the plant eats the fly. Isn't that weird, man? There's some weird nature out there. These are called carnivorous plants. How do we understand and figure out what's going on with all this strange nature? I thought everything God made was perfect. Genesis 3 tells us, at the time when, the whole serpent and the tree and the fruit and whatever, the woman said, the serpent deceived me and I ate it. Remember how we keep talking about how the enemy is great at deceiving and tricking? That's his life, man. Remember, he's constantly doing battle against God, so he's always up to no good. So the Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you above all the livestock and all the wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life. You were punished for what you did. Now, the snake, the serpent, was not the only thing to get punished here. If we actually read the Bible, sin caused all of God's perfect nature to be changed. All of it. Woman, man, the ground, serpent, animals, plants, you read the Bible, everything got affected. Nothing was spared. Nothing that we see in nature today is the way that God originally created it. Nothing. I can't wait someday to ask God what the original crocodiles look like, the original sharks look like, what the original scorpions look like, what the original mosquitoes look like, what the original dinosaurs look like. Because everything that we see in nature today, guys, nothing is the way that God originally created it? That's probably one of my top questions on my bucket list for God. The worst part about this whole deal was that from this point forward, everything would die. That was the worst. Because can you imagine? When I'm telling you God created everything perfect, it's so perfect that we didn't even die. Plants, animals, people, nothing dies. Wow. But now because of sin, all of this wonderful, perfect nature got messed up. And how do we get out of this mess? Right there in the Bible, Romans, the wages of sin is death. We sin, death. There's a very specific order to this. Sin came first, and then came death. Which is why this is confusing, the idea of them having lived millions of years ago. That would imply that there was millions of years of death and disease before the time of the Bible. That doesn't make sense because it says that sin caused death. This would say that, no, death was going on for millions of years before Adam and Eve. Doesn't fit. Now you can believe what you want, you can say what you want, but this doesn't go in the Bible. If your goal is to follow and believe in what the Bible says, this concept does not fit. Whether it's in an evolutionary setting or in a Christian setting where they tell you that they lived millions of years ago, it doesn't fit. It's not biblical. You can believe what you want, it's not biblical. The reason why is right there in John 8:44. Satan is a liar. Not only is he a liar, he is the father of lies. The number one deceiver, the number one liar, the number one hider of the truth is Satan. And that's why we have to be extra careful. Because when he picks some of these topics that he's sneaking out, we've got to be prepared. We've got to be ready to provide an answer, right? Because everywhere we go in this culture, we get the same thing. Dinosaurs a million of years ago and all this stuff. We need to be able to respond intelligently. Because the Bible teaches something totally different. Okay, so again, what are we giving away? Discovery Quest. Cool. Discovery Quest is a series of audio CDs you can listen to. These are devotionals you can listen to on the way to school, before going to bed. Very fun. I narrate them. There's Russia, Hawaii, China, Egypt. They're super fun. They're about 15 minutes long each. There's, I think, 52 total. A lot of fun. By the way, we produced them in Spanish as well. Here's the question. Does Satan have the power to create living things? I'm going to go a little bit this way this time. Alright. I was looking for nice, quiet hands, and I found one right here in this young man. Does Satan have the power to create living things? No, is he right? Yes, good job, sir. There you go. Big round of applause for my friend. Awesome. All right. Remember, I'm looking for those nice, quiet, raised hands. All right. So you can see the A on the gray square and the B on the white square. Different colors, right? Right. Those are actually the same color. This is called an optical illusion. The shadow from the sphere, or the cylinder, makes it look like A and B are different colors, but in reality, the truth was disguised from us, and it was hidden from us. When we actually join the two squares, we can see that the colors are the same. Once again, Satan is constantly trying to hide the truth from us, to disguise the truth from us. We have to be extra careful and cautious, especially on the important things. To illustrate this, I need a volunteer. Is there a young person that can help me volunteer? I'm going to come this way a little bit. Dun, 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 dun. You want to help me out, buddy? Okay, come on down. All right, I found myself a volunteer. All right, good deal. What is your name, sir? Aiden. All right, Aiden, here's what I'm going to ask for you to do. Aiden's got my bag here. Very cool. What do we got in the bag? We got a very cool exploring casino. Good, Aiden. Got a hat for you. The question is, which is the real Aiden? This one? Oh, good job! Even though I disguised him, you were able to see through the disguise? That is exactly what I want you guys to always do. Look through Satan's disguises to the truth of who the real Aiden is. That's you, right? It's not me. Always look for the truth, guys. This is very important because it's going to be hidden and covered by our society and our culture. And I always suggest that the best way to find the truth, guys, is you look in one particular book. You guys know what I'm talking about? You got it. David, you look very cool with the keffiyeh and with the bag and with the hat. But you know what? The hat is yours. It looks good on you. All right, big round of applause. Thank you. Nice, Aiden. Thank you, sir. Remember, the truth may be disguised. Don't fall for every single thing you were told in schools, and movies, and books. Whoa. You guys are hearing that, right? That's not just me, right? You don't see some dinosaur walking around here, do you? That is weird. Alright, here's a question that I get asked a lot, so let's just answer it really quick the best we can. Does Ellen White say anything about dinosaurs? First of all, the word dinosaur was invented recently, so she doesn't actually ever use the word dinosaur. But she does talk about another thing in her passages called amalgamation. She said, every species of animal which God had created were preserved on the ark. The confused species, which God did not create, interesting, which were the result of amalgamation, were destroyed by the flood. Then immediately she says, since the flood, there has been amalgamation of man and beast, as may be seen in the almost endless varieties of species of animals. First of all, interesting that she's talking about creatures or confused species which God did not create. Interesting. The other interesting thing she says is amalgamation, which literally means mixing, happened before the flood and is happening to this day. Since the flood, as can be seen today, mixing. Not of man and beast together, it's of man and of beast, because there are biological limits. Interesting that it would have it that way. Now, what in the world is a confused species? That's kind of tricky. I thought God created everything. Well, here's the dog breeds that we know of today. There's about 300 or 400 of them. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have dogs. But not every dog is exactly the same. I would say some of the species have been confused. Such as this guy. I know he's creepy looking, but believe it or not, that is still a dog. Would you say this is a pretty confused species? Yeah. I'm assuming if God were to send 2 dogs to be on the ark, would he send these whacked out, confused species, or would he send the purer ones? Makes sense to me. It doesn't mean that God cannot create living things. It's just saying that man confused the species or breeded them or whatever you want to call it. Man and Satan have gotten some pretty unusual abilities scientifically and whatever, not to create, but to confuse. Check out this cat. Poor thing, there's no hair. Yeah, this is what I'm assuming we would be talking about, confused species. The Bible, or Sister White also says that a large class of animals perished at the time of the flood because God knew that the strength of man would decrease and these mammoth animals could not be controlled by feeble man. Nobody knows if she's referring directly to dinosaurs, but it kind of sounds like it. These mammoth animals that died off in massive amounts at the time of the flood sounds like dinosaurs. Does it imply that they became extinct? Doesn't clearly say that either, so unfortunately, there's interesting information, but it's not 1,000% clear, but it is pretty interesting what she writes. Hey! Hey, it's time to get our 3D glasses on. Awesome. All right, so to make sure you got them on right, make sure you have the red over your left eye. Make sure the red is over your left eye. If not, it's not gonna work. All right, let's take a, these are just some pictures of dinosaurs. Here's the first, well, this is a dog. We're just kind of testing out our glasses. There's like a group of raptors or something cruising. Yeah. Yeah, there's another one in a museum. Here's a big one in a museum. That's a raptor in a museum. There's like a T-Rex chasing the raptors. 3 of them, I guess. And a raptor skeleton. By the way, when you see skeletons in a museum, those are replicas. The real bones are preserved in a very safe place. This is a Triceratops. Famous because they have 3 horns on their head. Very cool. Whoops, sorry. I don't know where that picture came from. Oh, that was fun. Thank you, thank you. All right, lights on. You guys okay? Did I scare you a lot? You're welcome. Nobody needs a defibrillator, right? Clear! Gotta have fun, guys. Gotta have fun once in a while. Hey, it's game show. Talk about fun. Let's give something else away. What do we have? A DVD of Nature Time. I don't know how many of you guys watch Kids Time on 3ABN. I am the nature guy there, and this is a compilation of the first season, all the Nature Time episodes. If you just want to skip to the Nature Time, this is for you. So here is our question. I'm looking for nice, quiet, raised hands. What caused all of God's perfect nature to get messed up? All right, I'm going to go a little bit farther back. I want to throw some love at you guys way in the back over there. Just because you came a little bit late, it doesn't mean that you can't do a prize, right? I'm coming right here to this young lady. The question is, what caused all of God's perfect nature to get messed up? Say it, is she right? Yes! A big round of applause, come on! Awesome, enjoy! Yes, I don't forget about the people way in the back. Where should I go next? Does the Bible mention dinosaurs? Well, first of all, the word dinosaur was only invented not too long ago, so we're not going to find it in there. It was invented by Mr. Richard Owen, this fine-looking gentleman, in the 1840s. So that's why we're not going to see the word dinosaur in the Bible. But before that, people would still find these big bones laying around. They just called them something else. They called them dragon bones. Dragon bones. Now, why would they use the word dragon? And is the word dragon mentioned in the Bible?
Double.
Quite a bit, actually. It's mentioned over 30 times in 10 different books. And the interesting thing is that when it says dragon, it's not always talking about some, prophetic creature with 12 heads or whatever. It's talking about like a regular animal. The poison of the dragon, slaying the dragons of the sea, the place where the dragons live, being swallowed by a dragon, snuffed up the winds like a dragon. It's like a regular animal, but what animal is this exactly? There's a lot of animals in the Bible that we actually do not know or understand about. And one of them is called the behemoth, found in Job 40. Interesting creature, because when they went to translate it, even though there was a huge description in the Bible, they still couldn't figure out what it was. So the translators just said, just leave the word behemoth in there. you guys can figure it out. But let's see if we can figure out some clues. Behemoth, which I made, as I made you, eats grass like an ox. Behold, his strength is in his loins, his power in his belly. He makes his tail stiff like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze, his limbs like bars of iron. He is first of the works of God. For the mountains yield food for him, where all the wild beasts play. If the river is turbulent, he is not frightened. He is confident, though the Jordan rushes against his mouth. No one can one take him by his eyes or pierce his nose with a snare? And he goes on and on talking about this creature. Now, a lot of people try to figure out what creature this is, and usually the short list is one of these 4 creatures. Some translations actually go as far as putting a little star on the passage right there where it says behemoth, and a little star, beep. And then it'll say, supposed to be either an elephant or a hippopotamus, whatever. It could be a crocodile. I've seen various animals, claimed to be behemoth. The question that we have to ask, though, does this creature described in the Bible fit the description of one of these creatures? It says it eats grass like an ox, so it's a vegan creature. Right away, the crocodile is off that list because the crocodile does not eat grass. It says it has strength in its loins, meaning it has strong hips. Our crocodile definitely is not on that list. And a couple of those other animals, like the little hippo with his little legs, and definitely doesn't fit either. Tail like a cedar, meaning that it has a huge tail because the cedar is a large tree. Now, none of these creatures seem to have a really big tail except maybe the crocodile. But the crocodile already failed 2 of the previous tests, so it can't be the crocodile. And this is what a cedar looks like. This is like the giant tree of that area, Lebanon or whatever. These were big trees. If you wanted to say the tail was big, yeah, it was like a cedar, man. If you wanted to say it was little, you'd say it was like a twig. It was like a blade of grass. It was tiny, it was cute. Kind of like that. Does that look like a cedar? No way. That's like a little bit of tail. Besides, if you were in the Bible describing the elephant, would you call out its tail? What body part would you call out from an elephant?
Ears.
His nose. So it can't be the elephant. That doesn't make sense. Bones are tubes of bronze, limbs like bars of iron. That means it has big, strong bones, like the ones we were pulling out of that pit. Let me tell you, these bones were so big, it took 3 grown men to get this thing out of there. Big, strong bones. First of the works of God, meaning largest of God's creations. I looked in every commentary, Bible commentary I could find, and everyone said the same thing. The largest creatures ever designed or created by God. Interesting. The river is turbulent, so he's not frightened. That means he can hold his ground, even if the river is like wild and he just, I'm thirsty, I'm going to get some water. And boom, plunks his head in the water and drinks. No problem. It's not like a little mouse that has to worry about getting washed away by the river. Can't pierce his nose with a snare means that he cannot be domesticated. You can't have him as a pet. Or, have them in the ranch, you can't milk them or whatever. Like a horse or a cow, or you can domesticate those, but these creatures are wild, like a hippo. You cannot domesticate a hippo. As much as you try, it cannot happen. Don't even try. These are wild animals, and this creature described in the Bible is a wild animal. Interestingly, the next chapter talks about a bizarre creature that seems to be extinct today, called the Leviathan. The Bible describes this, again, a whole chapter describing it, and when I read it the first time a few years ago, I was like, what kind of animal is this? Here's the highlights. This is only the highlights of this animal. It has a strong limbs and a strong neck. Its chest as hard as rock. Double coat of armor. Mouth is ringed with fearsome teeth. Smoke pours from his nostrils. Flames stream from its mouth. Its underside is like jagged rocks. You can't hook it with a fish hook. Forget about harpooning it. Forget about taming it. Swords, spears, javelins can't harm it. Iron is like straw to it. Bronze is like rotten wood. If you try to battle it, you'll regret it. It makes the depths of the sea churn. It's a creature with no fear, and just looking at it will terrify you. Right out of the Bible. Clearly, this sounds like another one of these creatures that does not live today. Extinct. There is a lot of extinction that happened in our past, which is another possible reason to explain why dinosaurs became extinct. This whole phenomenon of preserving the animals and, they're on the endangered list. I'm not trying to make fun of that, but that's recent. The last several thousand years, if you find a dangerous animal, kill it! It's like you got a cockroach at home, you're not like, oh, is this on the endangered list? No, you're like, ah! Same thing in the past with this. In the history, you look up all over the place. You see a dangerous, threatening animal, you kill it. You don't ask if it's endangered. Anyways, here's one of these ocean-dwelling creatures that really got my attention when I first read about them. This tooth, and I actually have the tooth here in my bag, belongs to a creature called the... Anybody? Megalodon. This is a giant shark's tooth, basically. Shark's tooth are super cool. This is a giant one. Now, this is actually a small one. The largest one they've ever found is about 7 inches tall. That is a big tooth. Now, just to give you an idea how big this shark was, I did some math. You guys have seen how big my screen is, right? This megalodon was more than twice as wide. So that's more than the width of this room. Giant shark. And this was one of his small teeth. Guys, that's a big shark. Lots of stuff in the ocean, guys, that we don't know about or understand about even to this day, or what happened in the past. Marine biologists claim that we've only discovered about 5% of the things that are in the ocean. Wow. 5. That's like 95% yet to be discovered. So kids looking for an interesting career, plenty to discover in the ocean still, apparently. Why were dinosaurs so big? Okay, so they were kind of large. Here's a picture that shows scale. Here's a man and an elephant, so you can kind of compare. And then we have our big guys, like the Dinosaurs and the T-Rex in the back there. These guys were pretty big, but a lot of people don't realize or aren't aware of the little guys. Like the little guy over there. See the little guy? There's lots of little guys as well. But nobody gets so excited about the little guys. They only get excited about the big guys. But there was lots of these little guys. And there was a lot that were docile. Actually, most dinosaurs were believed to be docile. There was only a few that were aggressive. And of course, those are the few that everybody loves and that everybody makes movies about. Nobody seems to be worried about making movies about a stegosaurus chasing you through the woods because they only eat grass. I don't know. So this is a longevity chart that I found. It's pretty cool. This shows, according to Genesis 5, how long people lived at the beginning. So here's Adam right there. Born at, started at creation, 0. He lived for 930 years. His son, Seth, was born when he was 130. He went on to live for 912 years. And his son and his son and so forth. Who was the oldest of all? Methuselah. And how old did he live? Very good, 969 years. That's a long time. All these guys back then. Look at these huge lifespans. Here's Methuselah right here. Now, what a lot of people don't realize, because the Bible says Adam's story and then you never hear from him again. But if you look at this chart, Adam was around for his great-grandchildren's concerts. Isn't that amazing? I mean, his great-grandkids could crawl up on his lap and say, hey, tell me what the Garden of Eden was like. Isn't that cool? We don't kind of put that together sometimes. Adam died just barely before Noah was born. Here's Noah. And of course, Noah lived here. This big line is very important. That's the flood. Now, look at the long lifespans before the flood, but look at what happens after the flood. Short lifespans, almost immediately. I mean, Noah outlived his great-grandchild. Because Noah was still of the generation born before the flood where they lived these long lives. But everybody born after the flood, short lives. Now what happened is up to lots of guesses and speculations, and they started eating meat and the oxygen in the atmosphere, whatever. There's a bunch of different possible explanations. But what I want you guys to be aware of is that before the flood, long lifespans. After the flood, short lifespans. The question that I want to ask you guys is, what were the animals like before the flood? Wouldn't it be fair to assume that the animals also had long lifespans? Sure, why not? Obviously everything was much closer to creation, much more perfect. Plants, everything probably lived long lives. You can have a cow for 500 years. Yeah, an elephant for like 1,000 years or something, right? The lizard scurrying around the yard for 500 years. I don't know. The interesting thing about this question has to do with reptiles, because we're talking about dinosaurs being a type of reptile. I don't know how many of you guys know this, and this is an interesting piece of information to put together here. Reptiles are the only class of animal on our planet that never stops growing. Very interesting. Humans, mammals, right? We reach adulthood and then we stop. These guys, from the moment they're born to the moment they die, they don't stop growing. So that means if they were to live for hundreds of years and never stop growing, it would appear we'd have some very large reptiles. Could this possibly be one of the explanations for why these dinosaurs got so big? Maybe. A lot of people think that perhaps God just created these guys to be big, and that they would reach adulthood after 20 or 30 years like normal people as well. So nobody knows exactly for sure, but there's a couple of interesting little bits and clues out there, because when we look in the fossil record, we find large reptiles. Look at this guy. That's a large reptile. That's a snake. Based on the fossils that have been found of their vertebra, this is how big they believe it would have been. Large reptiles, large reptiles, large reptiles. Lots of large reptiles. That's pretty interesting. I am getting a little bit concerned. You guys haven't seen anything running around behind me, right? Oh, it's little Rexy. I totally forgot about little Rexy. You guys want to see little Rexy? He's right here in my bag. Rexy, is that you stomping around making all that noise?
Yep, that was me. Hi, everyone. They don't talk very much.
They kind of shocked to see you, I think. They didn't know a dinosaur would come out of my bag.
Oh, I guess that would be surprising.
So you know what? Rexy actually loves to tell jokes. Do you guys want to hear one of his jokes? All right, Rexy, you are on.